Dick Lindstrom from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm really excited to be talking about a new surgical microscope, keratoscope. And I've been interested in this for a long time. And working with Doug Mastel, he has now created an even better device. You can see it's also very low profile, and it has a switch here where you can turn it on. And instead of just two rings, it actually has 3 rings. And also it has a fixation target. And basically you can ask the patient to look at the red light, and then you can adjust the brightness from relatively dim to actually, as you can see, very bright, to get a very nice series of rings. And actually the little dots allow you to line up the axis of the astigmatism quite accurately. In addition, when you place an intraocular lens at the end of the case, for example with a multifocal intraocular lens, you can actually line up the red fixation target, and you can adjust the X and Y so that the 2 Purkinje images off the lens and off of the cornea are lined up, so you know there's no parallax. And then you can look at the intraocular lens to see if it's perfectly centered on the visual axis. So besides getting the axis of the astigmatism perfect, you can also get the intraocular lens perfectly centered, which makes a difference with a diffractive multifocal intraocular lens, for example. And the final thing actually has more benefits than even we thought, is you can actually see a reflection off the intraocular lens from the ring lights. And the reflection off of the intraocular lens actually shows you an oval of the toricity of the intraocular lens. So you can have the toricity of the cornea going one way, and then the toricity of the intraocular lens going the other way. And when those two are perfectly aligned, so they're 90 degrees apart, then you know you have the toric intraocular lens perfectly lined up. I find, for example, that the marking that we do for corneal relaxing incisions or toric IOLs is not very accurate. You can have oblique muscles or the rectus muscles rotate the eye when the patient becomes supine, and it only takes a small error in degrees off on either a corneal relaxing incision or a toric IOL to significantly reduce the power of the procedure. So the best and easiest way actually to line up the steeper and flatter meridia is to use real-time on the table surgical keratoscope. And you simply get yourself in focus and then put a couple drops of balanced salt solution on the eye and let them settle, and you can see basically the oval ring line. Now you can see, if you get really good at this, a small amount of astigmatism is about a half a diopter. And if you're wondering about the steeper and flatter meridian, if you just touch the surface of the cornea and indent a little bit, you can see the mire actually round up, and you can accurately place that within a very small number of degrees. And so it's really going to be a tool, I think, that many surgeons are going to find useful. It's going to help, with their corneal relaxing incisions. It's going to help them with limbal relaxing incisions. It's going to help them lining up your incision if you like to do on-axis incisions. It's going to help with the placement of toric intraocular lenses to line them up perfectly. It's going to help with titratable corneal relaxing incisions with the femtosecond laser. And it's also going to help us line up the intraocular lens, which is important both with toric lenses, so they're lined up with the corneal visual axis, because if they're off to the side, they also induce distortions, and with our multifocal intraocular lenses. So it's a neat tool. You can see that it's very small and easy to use. You can put it on and take it off, basically any microscope. It's not going to be in the way of surgery. I just use it all day today. And it's really a remarkably small device with a little charger that you can see here. And I would encourage you to take a look. It's just a tool that you can use every day in your OR.
My first impression of this device is really nice in that it allows you a much more detailed view of the curvature of the cornea during the case. So during relaxing incisions, during placement of your main corneal incision, it's really helpful to be able to have the lights there that can give you toricity of the cornea. Additionally, the Purkinje images off of the actual implant too can help with centration of the implant, can help to make sure that it's centered on the visual axis. Fixation light is nice, and one of the other advantages is that very low profile, so it doesn't get in the way of the surgery itself. So the instruments fit underneath there, and so the ring light adapter is really nice. I've been very happy with it so far.
My name is Jason Jones, and I'd like to present to you an illuminated keratoscope from Mastel Precision with 3 different toric cases. As is usual, the limbus is marked preoperatively, which these marks are aligned with using a Mendez ring, and then the axis is determined. Here you can see the short axis of the illuminated keratoscope corresponds nicely to the short axis determined preoperatively and with the markers. Now I have rotated to have my incision on the steep axis, and once we have our lens in fairly good alignment, you can see the 2 reflections, the Purkinje reflections, the white one off the cornea and then the yellow-green one off of the lens. Note here, using just the illumination from the illuminated keratoscope, that the 2 short axes are 90 degrees opposite each other. And this also demonstrates a slight misalignment here, so we're just going to touch up our orientation for better correction. Having proper tension in the eye as well as moisture content on the surface is important to obtain a good reflection off the corneal surface. Once again, in this case here, we're on axis with our incision, and you can see the steep axis here corresponding fairly well with our corneal limbal marks, and that's denoted here. You can see 90 degrees opposite the Purkinje reflex, which is a yellow-green in nature given the chromophore of the lens, as well as the slight blue tint from the LED illumination. Note also the excellent centration with the red central dot. Once again, the short axis is readily identified.